Hello everyone, welcome again. Now in the last video we saw about the failure class and description class. Now in this video we are going to see some more annotation provided by the JUnit, that is @ignore, expected exception and timeout. So before going to that, I am going to delete both the class file, that is testjunit and testjunit2, and I will add two class file over here. Let me call the first one as test positive, and the second one is test negative. Now the test positive class will contain all the positive test case corresponding to our API, and test negative class will contain all the negative test case. So based on the document which we discussed in our previous video, I have created a test data for testing our API. So this is for the ISO code, this is for the num code. This both are 1D array that will be serve as input, and this is a 2D array which serve as the expected output. So let's start writing the JUnit for this API. So in the test positive class, I create one method called public void test ISO code. Now here I am going to construct the currency object based on the 3-character ISO code. So I'll copy this 1D array and paste here, and this is the same expected output. So I'll copy this from here and paste it over here. So as you know that for each of the element present in this 1D array, I need to create a currency object. So for this I need to iterate through this 1D array. That's why I'm going to use for loop. For int I equal to 0, I is less than ISO code dot length, and I plus plus. Now inside this I'm going to construct the currency object for each of the element present in the ISO 1D array ISO code. So here will be ISO code of I. Once this is done, as we know that for validating our expected output with the actual one, we usually use the assert class, and so this time I'm going to extend this assert class. So this will so whenever I need to use the any assert method, I don't need to call with the help of a class name. I can directly call the assert method. For example, in previous test cases, in the previous video we saw that if I want to use any assert method, I need to call using the class name, that is assert dot assert equals. Now here I can directly call the assert equal because I have already extended this class in my test positive class. So here assert equal, and let's say first will be our expected of I of 0, that is our symbol. So that can be get through the currency API with the help of get symbol method. Now as you can see that this is a 2-dimension array, so this is 0th row, first row, second row. This is first 0th column, first column, second column, third column. So 0th row, first column, 0th column, 0th row, first column, 0th row, second column, 0th row, third column. So here as I know that the first zero the element present at the 00 is our symbol, so I'm going to equate it with the help of currency dot get symbol. Similarly for the others, so at the first position I have numeric code. So from the currency API, I'm going to get that numeric code, I'm going to use currency code method. Similarly at the second column I have fraction digit, so I'm going to use get fraction method of currency API. One more thing, as you know that the return type of this method is integer, and this is a string object, so I need to convert this string object into the integer. So for that I'm going to use a method called integer.parseInt, which is going to convert your string object into the integer. and similarly for their currency name, so this will be 3, and that can be get with the get currency name method. So once this is done, similarly I'm going to create one more test case for the currency object created on the basis of ISO, instead of ISO code, that is the numeric code. So this will be test numeric code, and here the input 1D array will be your num code. So based on the num code I'm going to create the currency object, and then I will validate it with my expected result. So here will be num code dot length, and also here also num code dot length. So once this is done, let me move to the test negative class and add some negative scenario. So for example, the negative scenario could be passing the invalid ISO code, passing the invalid currency code, passing the null string, passing the valid currency code in lower case. So let's start writing the negative test case. So first will be public void test invalid ISO code. So here currency and I'm going to pass an invalid ISO code, that is AAA. Similarly for invalid numeric code, public void test invalid numeric code, and inside that I'm going to construct the currency object based on invalid 3 character numeric code. So this will be 111. One more test case for null string. Let me call it null code, and here I'm going to construct the currency object based on a parameter which is parameter passed as null. So I will pause the inverted commas, and the last one will be your valid currency code but in different case. So let me call it test lower case. Here I'll rename it to test null code, and here I'm going to pass a valid currency code, that is EUR, but in lower case. So once this is done, and this kind of warning you can avoid by putting annotation called suppress warning. Inside that you passed unused. Now again I will navigate to my test runner class. Here I will create result object R1 and R2 for test positive and test negative class. So I'll make it test positive dot class, and this will become test negative dot class. Now once this is done, I am going to just append those things. So here I'll create integer variable, let's say total run count equal to, and it will be the total number of test case run by the JUnit core class present in both the classes, that is test positive and test negative. That's why I can put like this, and this will be replaced by total run count. Similarly for failure and ignore, int total fail count will be plus result 2 dot get failure count. in a similar manner for ignore count. So ignore count will be result1 dot get ignore count plus result2 dot get ignore count. And yeah, the last one, long total time, it will be equal to result1 dot get runtime plus result2 dot get runtime, and I'm going to use this variable over here. Similarly this one, ignore count here, and I'm going to remove this part. So once this is done, so what we did till now is that we created two result object, result1 and result2, corresponding to test positive and test negative class. I'm just fetching total run count from both the classes and storing into a variable called total run count. Similarly for the failure count, ignore count and total time, and I'm printing one by one over here. And finally inside the if block, I'm checking that whether any one of them got failure. If there it is, just try to extract the failure object, create a list, and try to replace try to fetch the information about the failed test case. So once this is done, again I will open my command prompt, delete all class file, compile all the Java file, and execute the our main class, that is test runner. Let me redirect this to a temp.txt file. Again I will open to src folder. This is my temp.txt. Let me open it. So as you can see, the total number of test cases are 4. Just a minute, I think I missed something. Yeah, here will be result2 dot get run count, result1 and result2. Okay, fine. So again, delete old class file, compile the Java file, and run the main class. So as you can see that total number of test cases are, total number of run count will be 6. That is, 2 are coming from test positive class, this 2, and 4 are coming from test negative class. And there are 4 failure, yes, because all the test cases which are present in the negative test negative class are failed, and there is none of them got ignored. And total number of total time to execute is 59 seconds. And these are the information regarding each of the failed test case. So once this is done, now we'll talk about the ignore annotation. Suppose you want to ignore any of the test case. Let's say I don't want to run this test case. So in order to do that, all we need to do is to put the ignore annotation over this test case. So right now we have 1, 2, 3, 4. Let me put sysio over here. So we have a proper check. And let me run it once again. So as you can see that in the previous result we are getting total number of test case was 6, now it is 5. As you can see that one of them got ignored, and total number of failure are 3, which was 4 in the previous run. And as you can see that we are not getting any kind of sysio with name as ignore, because that particular test case got ignored. So this piece of code got execute. Once this is done, it is also possible that you can ignore the entire class. All I need to do is put an ignore annotation in front of the class. Now in this manner, what will happen, all the test cases which are present inside this particular class will be ignored. So let me again do the same thing. Delete all the class file, compile all the Java file, and again run it. So as you can see that only two test case that belongs to the test positive class are executed. There is a one ignored, yeah, that is coming from because we ignored the entire class, and there is none of the failure. So in this manner you can, if you want to ignore the entire class entire class, you can use the annotation in front of the class, or if you want to ignore a single test case, you can put the @ignore in front of that particular test case. Now moving on, see, from testing point of view, you come across a certain negative scenario where the expected result is to fail the test case, but from the testing point of view it should pass. For example, in this case I am expecting the null illegal argument exception, but the test case is failing with the illegal argument exception. So ideally from testing point of view it should get passed. In such kind of scenario where you are expecting some kind of exception, known exception from the APIs, you can use one argument inside the @test annotation, that is expected exception. Now expected exception, you need to provide the exception class. So in our case we know that for illegal argument pass inside this API, this particular method will throw illegal argument exception. So I'm going to put here illegal argument exception dot class. Similarly for other test case. Once this is done, again I will delete my class file, compile the Java file, and run my runner class. So as you can see that total number of test case executed are 5, and yeah, none of them got failed because now we are expecting the illegal argument exception. That's why this test case got passed. If I, for example, if I change this illegal argument to some other exception, let's say null pointer exception, and rerun it, so as you can see that total number of test case run are 5. One of them got failed, one of them got ignored, and the reason was the failure was that we are expecting the null pointer exception, but the API throws illegal argument exception. So in this manner you can use the expected exception for the API for the testing when you are expecting some kind of exception thrown from the API. There is one more argument which is used along with the @test annotation, that is the timeout. Let me create one more method. Let me call it time test, and I'll mark it with @test annotation, and inside that I'm going to pass an argument called timeout followed by the timeout in the millisecond. Now this particular argument tells the JUnit that if this method doesn't execute does not finish its execution in 1000 millisecond, then fail this test case throwing that timeout exception. For example, I'll put thread.sleep inside this, and let me make it 2000 milliseconds. Now again I delete my class files, compile all Java files, and yeah, run the test runner class. So as you can see that total time it took this much, total number of test case 6, and out of which 2 got failed. The reason why one got failed, that yes, we were expecting the null pointer exception and it gave us the illegal argument exception, but you scroll down, so there is one more method which got failed, that is yeah, test timeout after 100,000 millisecond, and this is the time test, and yeah, it is Java lang exception, that is test timeout after 1000 millisecond. As I told you, this JUnit will automatically fail this test case if this method is taking more than 1000 millisecond. Let me make it 900 millisecond and rerun it. So as you can see that now we are getting only one failure. That is because of that expected exception was different and it is coming different. Now we are not getting any kind of a timeout exception. So usually in this manner you can use @ignore if you want to ignore a particular test case or ignore a class. Expected exception when you are expecting exception from an API, and in that case you need to pass your particular test case. And the timeout when you are putting some constraint over the time of running a particular method. For example, I'm trying to fetch usually this type of testing will done in case of performance when you want let's say you want to fetch the number of x number of rows from the database in that duration, so you can take the help of this timeout argument to calculate to test your performance. So these are the annotation which can be used in our JUnit. And if you have any doubt, you can mail me at this email ID. And that's all for this video lecture. Thanks for watching.